Great. Well, I want to welcome everybody here today, and I am very pleased with the turnout for this public meeting for historic preservation and having a nomination submitted for historic neighborhoods on the south side and north side of New Albany, as well as a resurvey of our historic downtown area to expand the area. This is a grant through the Mississippi Department of Archives and History that has been ongoing for about 2.5 years, and this is the culmination of it. So they surveyed both neighborhoods, they resurveyed the downtown, and now they'll submit an application to the National Park Service for actual historic designation. And so with us today are representatives from the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. They're going to go through the presentation and then open up for questions for anything that y'all have or have concerns about. So welcome to New Albany.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Thomas Dabney, and here with me is my coworker Sam Wigglesworth, who is our survey and inventory manager, and our summer intern Chloe Fortner. And we are from Mississippi Department of Archives and History. We're here today to talk about the proposed New Albany Historic District, which is going to go before our Mississippi Review Board later on in July. But first, I would like to take a quick moment to thank the individual who was the consultant who wrote the nomination, and then also who did both the surveys, Jamie L. DeStefano. In addition, a special thanks goes specifically to you, the City of New Albany, for continuing to preserve the historic resources that you have within your community. This is a very worthwhile endeavor. It is very important in the telling of the story of New Albany, along with the telling of the buildings that exist here. And another thanks goes to New Albany Certified Local Government Coordinator Billy Jean Stroud, who worked with staff at MDAH to ensure that this district comes to fruition here in New Albany. So with that, here's a brief rundown of what we will be discussing here in this public meeting today. I will give a brief overview of the National Register of Historic Places and a few details about the program. We will then discuss the proposed New Albany Historic District itself. Then we will discuss what that district means to the city and to you, the property owners and the residents of New Albany, and then we'll open the floor for questions and discussion. So the National Register of Historic Places was established under the National Historic Preservation Act in 1966 in response to urban renewal and the rampant federal projects that were destroying historical resources all across the country. Congress passed this act into law, and one of the provisions of that act was the creation of the National Register. And here I have a quote taken from the act itself, which placed it under the Secretary of the Interior, and it's administered by the National Park Service. This act also created the State Historic Preservation Office for every state, or SHPO for short, and the SHPO office for Mississippi is MDAH. Now, the National Register is the official list of places that are significant in the history of this country, and these historic resources hold significance at the national, state, and local levels. And historic resources can come in various different shapes, sizes, and purposes. As you can see on the screen, it's a rather eclectic group of buildings and structures and sites. These can range from churches, courthouses, bridges, standpipe, water tower. If you've been over to Carrollton recently, they just painted that standpipe. That's where that's located. And districts, which is the property type that we're going to be discussing today. Now, historic significance is the key in assessing a historic resource's eligibility to the National Register. Now, don't let the National and National Register give you concern, because the vast majority of historic resources that are listed in the National Register are of local or statewide significance. And to give you just two examples, the proposed New Albany Historic District that we're talking about today and the current New Albany Downtown Historic District, which I have here, are both listed on the local level for local significance. Now, to give a quick run through of the basics, we're not going to go through all these because that's it's quite time consuming, but just to give you all the highlights. Integrity is key for a building to be considered eligible for listing. So in the case of a district, we're looking for original exterior materials, original windows, roof structure, etc. If a building lacks too much integrity in the multiple of the 7 aspects of historic integrity, then it would not be considered eligible. So it may have original location or original feeling, but if it's lacking integrity in, say, design, materials, setting, workmanship, these could be of a detriment to the building and would make it considered non-contributing to the district. In addition to assessing the historic significance of resources, the National Park Service developed these 4 criteria, which in turn lead to the creating of areas of significance for historic properties. And each of the 4 main criteria that you see listed here has several different areas of significance that historic resources can be eligible under, and I will go into a little bit more detail of those later on in this program. So now that we have an overview of the National Register program, which, by the way, that number has been updated here recently, so we have a grand total of 1,516 overall listings on the National Register in Mississippi and over 230 districts in the state. So the proposed New Albany Historic District will add further to that number, possibly pushing us to 240. But now that we've had an overview of the National Register, we can look at the proposed New Albany district itself. And as noted earlier, New Albany already has one historic district, New Albany Downtown, which was listed on November 1st, 1996. Fast forwarding to 2022, the city of New Albany applied for a grant to conduct a survey of a much larger area of the city to see if it would qualify as a historic district, as Billy noted earlier. The survey was carried out in 2 phases. One phase covered the northern neighborhood section, the next phase covered the southern. And this survey was completed earlier this year. Now, when conducting a survey for a potential district, it's important to note that the surveyor has to go door to door, building to building, and assess that building within the boundary of the proposed district for eligibility. So they were going, like you probably saw somebody walking, or a couple of people walking around on the street taking photographs of every single building on the square, and then going into the neighborhoods that are around nearby, looking at every single house and every single building and outbuilding, if they could see it from the public right of way, and taking photographs, and they would make a survey form and send it to our office. Now, the proposed district will encompass the original downtown district, which it's a little hard to see here, but there's a blue dotted line along the downtown in the original survey area. But the red and everything you see here is going to be the boundary of the proposed New Albany Historic District. As you can see, the period of significance for this proposed New Albany district is nearly 100 years. About 5 off, but nearly 100 years. Actually, it's over 100 years. And this proposed district is significant under 2 criteria, the main criteria that we looked at earlier, criterion A and criterion C. And as you can see under criterion A, you have 4 different areas of significance. So, for example, commerce. The original downtown area was known for significant commercial development along with African American commercial area. Community planning development, the way that they set up the city, the way that they arrange certain buildings or neighborhoods. Government and politics. Of course, you have this impressive courthouse across the street. And architecture. Various different architectural styles, both in the downtown area and then in the surrounding neighborhoods that make up the district. So all of these are areas of significance, and there are far more underneath these various criteria, but these are the areas of significance which this district is significant under. So with a grand total of 994 resources within the proposed district, 733 of which are contributing, the proposed New Albany Historic District is going to create quite the documented story of New Albany from circa 1870 to 1975. And as you can see from this chart and from the following photographs, New Albany is brimming with historic resources. And just to give you an idea of some of them that from our district photographs, all of these resources within this district have been brought together through a common boundary with a common tangible link between them all. Now, that is the thing to remember when we're discussing historic districts. There has to be a tangible thread that connects all of these properties, whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, whether it's religious, whether it's governmental politics. All of these have a common thread that connects them all. And that is key to establishing a complete boundary and establishing a complete district. Now, the nomination for the proposed New Albany Historic District will go before the Mississippi National Register Review Board on July 18th, 2024. Now, this meeting is open to the public, and you are all more than welcome to attend. We would love to have you. And if you do decide to join us, you will see Jamie DeStefano will present the nomination before the review board. She will give make highlights concerning the arguments for the district, and then there will be questions and discussions concerning it. If the board approves the nomination, then that nomination will get sent to the National Park Service for the final verdict on whether or not it will be listed or not. Now, if the district does get listed, then here are some of the benefits that you will have access to from the National Register. And according to the provisions of the National Historic Preservation Act, all federally funded projects must be reviewed for their effect on historic districts. So this listing here in New Albany would provide some protection from big projects such as cell towers, highway expansions, or HUD projects in New Albany. And you do have the potential to apply for the federal and state tax credits if you have any questions concerning tax credits. I would forward you to our colleague Clay Mapp, who is our Mississippi Landmarks Coordinator at taxincentives@mdh.ms.gov. He'll be able to answer your questions concerning tax credits. If perchance you wish to object to the nomination, this is the procedure that must be followed. And all 6 have to be met for a nomination to not be considered for consideration at the review board. So with that, here's my contact information. I also have business cards. If you would like to receive a copy of the nomination, I know we were a little scarce on physical copies, but if you would like a digital copy, once it gets finished, I can email it to you. And if you have any further questions on the National Register process in general, feel free to contact me. If we're not out on a site visit, you can call my phone or reach me by email, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And with that, thank you very kindly for attending this public meeting, and we'll have any questions or concerns from y'all. Yes, sir.
If you go back to the what you had right before that.
This one? Absolutely. You're welcome. Any other questions anyone has?
What was that about the HUD thing?
But so that is. Let's go back to this. So that was under the what's called the Section 106 process, and that is also developed from the National Historic Preservation Act. But it's to protect historic resources from just being demolished, or with HUD, a lot of those are going to be rehabilitation, some of them demolishing. But it goes through our office, and we have to review it and say, okay, what exactly are y'all going to be doing to the house? How is that going to affect its integrity? How is it going to affect the integrity of the overall district? So all of those go through our office, and we look at those. And if we believe that would be an adverse effect, then we will write a comment saying that. And then that gets kind of back and forth between us and HUD.
But which, it's are region.
So let's go back to that boundary map. So everything that is within the red dotted lines here is going to be considered for listing in the National Register. So all this large neighborhood area to the north and then expanding all the way down to the south. And it's also going to include the B.F. Ford School as well, which that was individually listed 2 years ago.
So the red ones are all old.
The red,
Or pink or magenta.
white is going to be the contributing.
Okay.
And then vacant lots are the green, and then the pink that you see scattered throughout here are the non-contributing resources. Yeah, so everything that's clear white are contributing.
Gotcha.
Thomas, can you address the homeowners in this group about individual their individual homes and the benefit of being in the historic district?
Yes, so with your homes being listed, again, it does allow you these certain benefits that I've presented to you on the screen, but this is also preserving that element of history in New Albany because all of these homes in their various different styles and forms were built during a specific time by specific people. So with preserving those homes, you're preserving further the legacy of New Albany through your buildings. And that is an important aspect of history that is the reason why we get these districts in the first place, is to help preserve further the story of these residential areas, and then it also helps tell a fuller story of the city in general. So this is all, yes sir?
How would it affect the sales of certain properties?
So National Register listing does not affect sales. If you would like to sell that property to somebody else, simply because it's listed, that doesn't affect us. Or that doesn't affect it being listed, that doesn't affect the house. And another thing that has come up recently is insurance. We've had several people who have called saying insurance companies won't insure homes that are listed. Listing has nothing to do with insurance. Absolutely nothing at all. Right. So if an insurance company is like, well, we're not going to insure you because you're listed on the National Register, listing has nothing to do with insurance.
I noticed earlier that it said something about tax break.
Tax credits?
Yes.
Well, like I said, I would forward you to Clay for that one because I know enough about that to get me in trouble, and I don't want to get me in trouble, and I don't want to get y'all in trouble. So any tax credit questions, send them to that email address, and he'll be able to help you out with that one.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What if you have property that were chosen in that particular area and you refuse not to, if you don't want to be a part of it?
Well, that's where the objection comes in that we had, or that this slide here. If you don't want your property to be listed, and this is in a district, so the thing is, if a majority of property owners object to the proposed district, then the nomination won't be considered. So there has to be a majority of homeowners within the district who don't want to be listed.
But I think it's important to point out too that this is honorary. Right?
Yes.
Like we can't come in
Yeah.
and tell you, right. So if you want to change something, you can change it.
Yes.
Not,
Yeah. The state and the federal government have no right to tell you what to do with your own private property.
Correct.
And that's the same with individually listed buildings too. If a private property owner wants to come along and they have an individually listed building and they say, oh, we're going to demolish it. The most we can do is say, okay, well, we got to delist it because you're going to tear it down, so it's not going to be there anymore. But if you want to, do work on the inside of it in a individually listed, then we can't come along. It's like, look, you can't do that.
What if they had work on the outside?
That would depend. If it's going to be something that affects significant features to the building, we would advise against it. For example, if you wanted to, let's say you have an original wood clapboard and original wood windows, and you wanted to take all of that off. And those are character defining features of the house that allowed it to be significant and listed. We would advise to work with our office to see if there could be a way to preserve those features. But at the end of the day, it's your private property.
What I'm getting at, most of them I think have convenience side note.
Mm-hmm.
So is that affecting anything?
For a district, wait, what kind of siding did you say?
The
Vinyl siding? Okay, for a district, that could be detrimental to integrity. And if it already has vinyl siding on it, and if windows have been replaced, then odds are it may very well be on the non-contributing element, which means it's lost that integrity. The original siding's gone, the original windows are gone, but
And Jamie's documented that.
yes,
in
and
her survey.
Jamie has documented all of that. So if it's had all of those done to it, then it's in the nomination as non-contributing. Yes, ma'am.
On number 5, it said each owner has one vote, even if they own more than one property within the proposal historic district. So do that mean if they have 2 or 3 houses, they only have just one vote? They say, well, I just want this one house. And we say, I don't want all 3 of these houses. I don't want them to be in there.
I tell you what, I'll have to get back to you on that one. I personally haven't dealt with objections in a district, but I can give you my card, and you can reach out to me through email, and I can get you an answer to that. Because I don't want to say something misleading and it be wrong later. So I want to get you the most accurate information to help you out. So, yes, ma'am.
So most of the individuals in the room, I think this is probably their first time hearing about this nomination. So how do they obtain a copy to find out what was determined about their home?
Like I said, I can give out my card, which I've got plenty. So pretty sure if every one of y'all wanted a card, I can give you one. Sam, my coworker here, also has a card. But we can send you a digital copy of the nomination, and it'll also have a complete inventory of the properties that are in the proposed district, and y'all can read those, and it will have a determination whether it's contributing or not contributing in the description of the building.
So
that digital file is at the museum.
So this copy that was on the table is not the actual.
That is the
It's just
second submittal. So we have a review process. That was the most recent one that we got in. But once it goes before the review board, we will have it trimmed up, and it will be the complete version, and then we can send that to y'all.
So just so I can make sure I understand. So in this copy, a person who owns property can look in this document and find what was said about their property. Correct?
Yes. Okay. And if, like I said, I can send you a digital copy that has the full inventory, because if I printed out the full inventory, it would be probably a stack that day.
I understand.
Yeah, so, but.
It has the year the house was
Yes,
built.
it has
If they
all.
could find the original owners, they have the original owners.
The original owners probably might not be listed
Whatever's
in
on
that.
sample record,
but-
right, Jill?
That in the deeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what it will have is the name of the property, the address, whether it's contributing or non-contributing, the year it was built, and a description of the house.
I also want to say, we have survey forms of all these properties too, so and that usually has more information on your house specifically.
Yes.
Like it will have the previous owners and deed information, historical information. So if you want to see that, we have those too. They're usually, it's scanned to you.
Yeah, and we can include those as well.
And then y'all will be getting a copy too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll keep a copy, and I can get final, I'll put it in the museum.
But we can get y'all all the information.
And so I guess just a follow-up question is for those who this is their first time hearing about this information. Is there anyone in the room recalls anyone coming knocking on their door asking them about their property?
Nope. They can't.
No, they have to stay within the public right of way. So they're not going to come in your yard and knock on your door. When I said door to door, they have to stay within the public right of way. They can't come up onto your private property.
Are you referring to this organization or people in the neighborhood? Okay.
Meaning, when he was talking about they went door to door,
Yeah.
there's some individuals here that said they had no idea any of this was going on. So I'm just trying to understand what was the process of them knowing that this was going on.
Well, the phases were announced,
Yes.
and I assume those would have been in the paper or online.
And public meetings.
Yes. So yeah, there were some.
One at the museum and you had one at the community center in each district, so, and Jamie DeStefano was there and explained what she was doing. You know, I being at the museum was aware of it, if people came to that meeting,
But
knew
still,
about
the
it.
public, they had no knowledge of it.
I don't know anything about that part, I clear up.
Yeah.
So understanding that there was two public meetings. And
Yes.
I work with you and I know that it was. So at
And-
this point, if they didn't get the information in attending today, they could get additional information by getting your business card and getting the original documents of what was submitted.
Right.
So they have time to get information about what is going on. And if they object, they have time to get that in before July 18th.
Right.
It's important to also realize that the objection is for the whole district.
Yes.
Right, yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sir.
We have a sheet of paper in the back of the room. Get a sheet of paper, anybody write down their email address. That way you don't have to get 15 or 30 emails and you just email the documents all of us.
Okay. Well, we got that sign-in sheet back there. Yeah, we can flip that over, or we have another. I got plenty of sign-in sheets at the back. If y'all want to just write your names and put your emails as well, that would be perfect. Fine. Or if you just want to put your email, we can do that.
Do you have a question there? What did you say about the original windows on the house?
As far as integrity purposes,
What else?
so.
I just didn't understand.
Well, windows are a defining feature of buildings. That gives us what's called spaces and voids. And having the original windows intact is an important aspect of integrity that we look at when assessing a building for National Register eligibility, because that's the original wood or original metal, whichever one. But if original windows have been taken out or they've been altered, then that alters the character of the building itself, and therefore it alters the integrity of the building in the process.
So I guess building is a landmark. But because so much was done to it without going through procedures, we designated it as a landmark, so it lost its history. It lost the integrity of its history. So this is just like what Sam says, it's more of an honorarium just to encourage people to keep their places intact as much as possible. So that's it. But as individual homeowners, we can't pay you one thing to do for that.
They do it all the time.
Food.
The city, the building inspector, the care, and all that.
Yeah.
But it's still, if you want something done, get somebody to do it. The building inspector come in and say, they can't do this. They don't have connection with the city of New Orleans, although they are certified, in different states. They have these codes they supposed to go by and everything. But I've had some to be turned away because they didn't have the New Albany, they had the city and Alabama.
That's just open, I mean, that's.
But that's telling you what to do with your stuff, and who you can get to do it. This is the kind of stuff we run into. This is what I run into. To keep my stuff where it's supposed to be.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the empty lots? Like, I'm a builder, my husband is a builder, and we like the downtown area. I actually have a property downtown, and we flip houses there too.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at a lot of empty spots in there, or we can do small homes. Would that affect, I guess, the way, would anything change on how we supposed to build them, or?
So, because I believe the downtown historic district is also a local district, isn't it? So that one, if you built inside the boundaries of the local district, you'd have to go by local ordinance. In any event, so that would be going through the New Albany Historic Preservation Commission. With building outside of a local district, inside a National Register district, it would. Hold on a second, I'm gonna wait till he's. Wait till it's soft loaded. I can be pretty loud, but that's hard to talk about. Okay.
I have a question.
Well, hang on one second. I'm answering her real quick, and I'll get to you. With building inside of a historic district, it would be advisable to work with our office to make sure that it's not going to negatively impact the visual aspect of the district. So let's see, you can work with us on that one, or work with MDAH to make sure it's the proper scale, the proper massing in that respect. Did that answer your question?
I heard you say something about grants. Was this grant to do this survey, or was this grant, maybe I'm asking you to, but if this area is accepted into the historical site, how does that grant affect that?
So if I'm understanding, are you asking about the grant for the survey? Because that was done through CLG, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So that was strictly to do the survey and
That's just to hire the
Yes.
surveyor to do the survey.
survey. So National Register comes with the potential for tax credits, but through our office, we don't have any grants for rehabilitation. Yes,
I got a friend in Albany. She bought a historic house,
Mhm.
and she had got it registered on the National Register. And once she got it registered on the National Register, it tells her that she had to put the original stuff on the outside of the house. And it got to be so expensive, she finally had to move.
I'd have to look at that and see where specifically that was, because I think Aberdeen also has a local. Sam, do you know if Aberdeen has a local district? So that may have been within the boundaries of the local district, and with that, you have to abide by the local historic preservation ordinances, which is set by the Aberdeen Historic Preservation Commission.
Did you all grant guarantee that nothing like that would happen?
To New Albany?
That
Not in regard to the national
National
register.
Register.
If it's in the local historic district, then yeah, that could happen.
but
I don't know about selling the property, but there are ordinances you have to abide by.
But this is a National Register district, so that isn't going to happen inside of a National Register district. A local district, again, you have to abide by the local preservation ordinances.
And that's the downtown area. That's not in the.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
This might not be time and the proper place, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What about senior citizens that cannot get this work done, need help, and can't on their house, and can't get it? They can't do it, they're not able.
That is a great question. That would be one I'll need to get back with you on email about, if that's all right. But we can converse about that.
What was that, what was that question?
It's what about senior citizens who own houses in historic districts and they can't do the work, or they can't get it done, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we can touch base on email with that one. Yes, ma'am?
So, I have this property, I'm just saying, I have this property here in the area. I made my mind up. I don't want it anymore. So, the best thing for me to do is write out my request.
Mm-hmm.
Get it notarized.
Yes, ma'am.
And bring it and put it to the review board before July the 18th.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the best thing for me to do.
Yes.
If my mind is already made up of my property.
Well,
Am I correct?
that's correct. If you follow this right here, you can send that in and it will be considered. Yes, sir.
Back on the federal rate of 20% for income producing properties only. Kind of brief me on that.
So what, do you have a specific property that you're thinking about? Business owner? Okay, is that, all right. Send that to that email. He will help you out with that one. That's all I can say there.
Do you know Sam Smallwood that owns the barber shop there at the corner? He got historic tax credits, so if you want, I can send you his email or his text and just ask him the process that he used to get historic tax credit on that, game day haircuts.
Isn't that just for buildings that you are rehabilitation of? Isn't that just for buildings that are being going under rehabilitation?
Yes, but you own an original, because you haven't done much to your building, have I will send you Sam Smallwood. Just call him, just have to think about we have my children. Where the steps.
Villaging.
Yeah.
That's 6 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Contact him.
Any other questions or discussions?
It seems like there's a disconnect between local ordinances versus what y'all are doing.
Mm-hmm.
What y'all are doing doesn't place any requirements on property owners, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, correct.
What would place a requirement on property owners is if the local, like a place like Aberdeen, chose to place an ordinance to be in line with what y'all are doing. So that would be the concern for the residents, whether New Albany would place a requirement on these historic private properties. So, but
right.
y'all are not really involved in that. That's up to New Albany.
That's up to the city to do, and y'all have got a local district that's within. I think it actually shares the same boundaries. It's the historic downtown district. It would be, and Billie Jean, you're going to have to comment on this one, but I imagine it's up to the city whether or not they want to go through the process of getting another local district.
Right.
But what we're saying in the National Register District is you do not have those ordinances on a National Register District as you do in a local district. That is under local ordinances by the New Albany Historic Preservation Commission. So ours, the National Register District does not have that.
Yeah, so if you're worried about like private property regulations, the best people to go to would be your city board and or mayor and Yes.
code enforcement.
Yes, absolutely.
Versus him, so.
This is just an honorarium that says you have property that has historic significance. And it's just you live in a historic district.
Exactly.
That's it.
It's a way to document these places.
Yeah.
It's a way to document.
So, you know, I have some that I don't really, and it's not. But to me, I think it's doing this, or bringing it back to the properties. I'm not expecting somebody. Like we said, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more people want to come down and take care of it.
Well, and yes, ma'am.
Is it sort of like downtown historic district? There are some buildings that are non-contributing, and those would be the ones that don't have a plaque on the building. Right?
So,
And your contributing ones have a plaque that's say listed on the.
well, you can get, not every one of those is going to get a plaque. If you would
Well,
like,
but I'm just saying, because it is a contributing factor in the district that they recognize. That's it. Right, I mean,
Yeah.
I know that, but I'm just
So-
saying, that's the kind of the difference, is it can be non-contributing and still be in a historic
Yes.
district.
yeah, you're going to have non-contributing and contributing elements for sure. Absolutely. For example, in my wife's hometown of Mobile, they have a lot of older homes. Mm-hmm. And I think they have local stuff and state stuff, but if they rehabilitate their house, they do work on their house, and they choose to meet the requirements of the Register of Historic Places, that's when they get their tax credits. In other words, potentially based on this, if I were to do work on my property and it's on this register, I could get tax credits for rehabilitating it within the requirements that y'all set. Correct. And again, I'll reference you to that tax incentives email, but yes, that is correct.
Billy Jean, the district, in his card says Standish Street. Standish Street is not yet in the district, right?
South.
Yeah, south. So that's not yet, right now, we only have
Right,
them. So to do historic tax credits, you or anyone, if this doesn't get approved on July 18th, what do you do to qualify for the tax credit? That's the first step. to get that.
The only approved district right now is the historic downtown district, which is Main Street and Bankhead.
So the first step is to get July 18th passed, and then anybody here that's property within historic tax credits.
I see Standish on this.
It's
It's
proposed, that's what we're waiting on July 18th.
And to give you a good example of using the National Register districts to help rehabilitate an area, look at the history of downtown Columbus. Because they went through the process of getting I believe it was a CLG and local government, local preservation ordinances in first. Then they got it listed, and they were able to use that to revitalize downtown Columbus to what it is today. And that's sort of one of the big victories of historic preservation using National Register district. Or no, they got it listed first, then they did the local ordinances. I got that reversed. But this does help you recognize and evaluate what resources you do have in your city and what you can use to say, okay, we can pinpoint these and say, these need some love, care, and attention. So, for example, just asking, like the Ford School, with it being on the National Register of Historic Places, it would seem like you'd be a lot more able to get federal grants for rehabilitating that. Am I wrong in that?
Now, it specifically, because it was individually listed first.
Are you sure it's listed?
The Beaufort School?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's
I
individual.
know it has the marker.
Yeah, it's in, well, that's a,
It is on.
yeah, it was brought before our review board in March of 2022, and then it was listed later on that year, if I remember
It's
correctly.
listed, but it's not a Mississippi landmark. No, it's not a landmark.
Right, it's not a Mississippi landmark. Now, that's a completely different ball of wax. But yes, it is individually listed, and then it will be a contributing element in the district. So that one, it's has the potential for tax credits. You could see if there were some other grants that outside of MDAH that could be of use, but that would be different, a different avenue.
So in general, this is just a positive thing. Now, however, with local concerns, if the local government were to put in ordinances that unfairly penalize property owners, that would be a concern to bring to the local government.
Yes, that would be a local New Albany issue that would need to be talked over with city officials.
And that sounds like that's what happened to that property in Aberdeen. They probably had a local ordinance that forced people to comply with the National Registry of Historic Places. That's what something we'd like to avoid in New Albany. So I just want to mention that would be something to bring to us, the local board, and we would listen to your concerns on
That's
that.
good.
Yeah, so, yes ma'am.
So the city, the historic preservation could single out, let's just say, and I'll just say Main Street, the residential part of Main Street, could be a local historic.
That would be a city decision.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
but
that's the
the
city.
city could come back and
Yes.
zero in on one or two areas where people agree to abide by.
They have streets in New Orleans that are just single streets.
That the preservation has been restored.
But if you didn't want that, you could bring that to the city board.
These are baby steps
But, yes.
to see the big picture going. It's just the baby steps.
We're talking about getting grants. And it takes money to get a grant. As she said, as an elderly person on a fixed income, will the city help people that need grants to help them get grants? Because grants cost money. To get a grant really for you, it costs money. Does the city or will the city assist you in doing something?
With private, like a residential.
Yes.
I don't know. That Billie Jean, I think that would be pretty difficult to get a grant for an individual residential property. I was thinking more along the lines of public buildings like Ford School, but I don't know about a grant for residential. Logan, do you have any idea on something like that?
I've never heard of anything like that. That might be.
They won't.
It's individual.
Yes. That makes people worry about elderly people living alone.
That's almost like nonprofits. That needs to be something that a nonprofit does. You know,
Or unless there's some type of state or federal program for that. That wouldn't be under historic.
But I think you're talking about rehabilitation of I think you're talking about if there was a code that you couldn't live up to based on money.
Yeah.
Would the city, be willing to look? Yes, I think so. The city would be willing to listen to your concern about that. If there was a code you couldn't meet for whatever reason.
That's a big concern,
Yeah.
especially with the elderly people.
Right.
I'm elderly too.
As far as you say across the board, or if it's in the historic district.
I think he's talking, well, there seems to be, the concern seems to be, because of this, will we require unfair ordinances? And the answer to that, I think, is no. But that's something to bring to the city board. It has nothing to do with him or the National Register. So we don't have anything, as far as I know, as far as residential housing that would require you to live up to the National Register. Now, if we decided to do that, which based on what I'm hearing, I would be against, you would need to bring that concern to the city board.
Tearing down houses in our community. And if they're constantly going down.
Right, and so that's one of the things I think this would help with, as far as our decision whether or not to tear something down. If it's within this register of historic places, then we would be a lot less likely, I would think, to want to tear something down. But once again, city code is up to us or the city board, not to the National Register of Historic Places.
And I'll remind if the district does go through and you talk about houses being demolished, with it being inside the district, those demolitions would come to us to review because now it is under the National Register of Historic Places, which grants a certain level of protection from demolition. So we would look at that. In fact, I had a project last week in Greenwood, I believe. They wanted to demolish a house. Well, I looked it up, and we also have a historic resources inventory database that Sam manages that we keep the track and a log of all of the historic properties that we have files for in Mississippi. I looked at that database, looked at that house. It was within a National Register district, and it was a contributing house. So with my capacity under Section 106, I looked at that and I said, okay, this house is in the district, which was listed on thus and so date. It is a contributing building. Demolishing this house would be an adverse effect. So it does, and then we'll get into a back and forth with the federal agency that is trying to fund that project.
So this would potentially offer protection from the demolishing of a historic building.
Yes, it does offer that potential protection, yes. But it has to get listed first. Like, we can't do anything if it's not listed, but if it gets listed first, then that Section 106 kicks in and we can review those projects and say adverse effect, no adverse effect, depends. But that does offer you that protection.
There's mud. No way there.
Any other?
This is done in transparency. It's not done to hide anything. It is a level of just property values being protected.
Not bad, huh?
And use homeowners are protected. So yeah, you can't guarantee that your house not will be demolished, but at least the state now has, they have a little say so in it.
And I mean, the reason why we have these public meetings is to be open and transparent. All right. Yes, sir.
I'm all for improving the office. I don't want everybody to get me wrong. I'm all for improving the office. But I'm also concerned about my history as an individual. And not only that, I'm also concerned about my community. That we seem to be losing our identity altogether. That's my concern.
It's a good concern, and I think Jill Smith has done a fabulous job in trying to start the groundwork on that too. Losing the history.
Think about the buildings that would be gone if we don't do something. Airport, school, churches. I mean, we have to take some steps to protect these things about it.
Another big constantly, the old wholesale across from the museum that that fell down. There's nobody to take it down. So there are some protections.
I think it makes us be aware of some of the things that we would want as a community to preserve. That makes us who we are, tell our stories. That's how I look at it.
Anything else? We good? All right.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank y'all for having us. Thank you.